Hi folks, Florida Man here, with my Basics of Germany 1902, or I'm Still Alive! Good news, looks like we survived 1901. If we didn't mess up, we most likely gained 2 builds from Holland and Denmark, and we kept all of our home centers. If you're going after Russia or England, you probably built 1 army and 1 fleet. If France, 2 armies. Of course, you might not have gained 2 builds. England might have bounced you in one of those centers, in which case you're probably building a fleet and fighting England. Alternatively, you may have lost a home center if France and/or Russia launched an early land assault. However, I will work under the assumption that you gained 2 builds, because if you failed to do so, that failure dictates what you're going to do already. You'll have to fight whoever is acting to prevent your growth or take your centers. If you're being attacked by more than one person, you're going to have to fight and negotiate very hard to try and survive. And the particulars of that are not something I can cover in a video like this. So, assuming you built 2 units, your path is laid out for you already to some degree. If you're attacking France, you will want your English ally to secure the Channel and/or Irish Sea and prepare for an attack on the mid-Atlantic Ocean and an amphibious move toward Brest. You yourself will want to secure Burgundy. Hopefully you have Italy also attacking France, but I will not assume that. The difficult thing in attacking France is that if you don't have Italian help, France is actually quite a difficult nut to crack. France will typically have 5 units at the beginning of 1902, and the French homeland is probably the 3rd most defensible homeland on the map, after England and Turkey. So if France can devote all 5 of his units to defense, and actually chooses to do so, that can be enough to hold England and Germany off for an unfortunately long period of time, perhaps indefinitely if there's some interference by Russia, Austria, or Italy on France's behalf, or if the alliance with England is beset with internal difficulties. Additionally, there's the problem that England typically has only 4 units at the start of 1902, meaning you tend to have a total of 9 units against France's 5, which is not nearly as one-sided as working with France and having 10 units against England's 4. And you know, we like things one-sided here. Just one reason why I tend to prefer working with France over England. For these reasons, it's no surprise if you're having a little difficulty planning out your fight with France in 1902. If you're not being interfered with by one of the Eastern powers, there is a simple, straightforward way to ensure the eventual success of your attack on France. Occupy every space that's adjacent to France, and then press inward. If you haven't broken into Burgundy yet, you should have armies in Munich, Ruhr, and Belgium, and fleets in the Channel and the Irish Sea. Then you start going after Burgundy, Picardy, and the mid-Atlantic Ocean. If you can guarantee one of those spaces, you have inserted the thin end of the wedge into the French defenses. It's better to guarantee forward movement rather than to try and gamble and hope you gain a French-controlled space. Fighting France is like being an anaconda, slowly choking your prey to death. You can't afford to give him space to breathe, or, before you know it, the French will have a unit behind England's lines, harassing the English in their homeland. If you move efficiently, though, this will be a slow, steady way of killing France. Unfortunately, the reality is that slowly, steadily defeating a power will often mean you don't actually defeat France until the East has already settled its conflict. If that happens, it means you'll already be behind one of the Eastern powers, usually Russia, who will be trying to press into your back from the East by the time you've defeated France. You really don't want that, so I recommend you try something slightly different if you can pull it off. Specifically, the best way to defeat France more quickly is to trick him into lowering his guard. I recommend the use of deception in early 1902, when it's probably too early for France to know for sure what your real intentions are. Pretend that you want to go after England together with France, or Italy together with France, or pretend that you're going after Russia or Austria, or pretend that you, England, and France are working a Western Triple. Any of a dozen or so different deceptions could get France to lower his guard, and that's what you probably need to do to defeat France more quickly. If you can get France to refrain from defending Burgundy in 1902, or to refrain from going after the Channel, that could shave a season or 2 off of your conquest timeline. On the other hand, if you're allied with France and going after England, Britannia is probably an even more defensible homeland than France is, but she has the weakness of being smaller at this early stage. I think there's every likelihood, therefore, that you can defeat England without needing to deceive her, because she will usually only have 4 centers in 1902, or even 3 centers if you pulled off some clever deception and also got Russia to open north. You and France will also be able to prevent England from getting Belgium, whereas keeping France out of Belgium is sometimes a more difficult task. For defeating England in a straightforward fashion, the key spaces to occupy are the English Channel, North Sea, and Irish Sea. If Russia helps out at all, it should be a quick war. Even if England is a very skilled tactician, as long as you and France have at least 4 fleets between you, your soldiers should be home by Christmas. You and your ally should probably DMZ Burgundy as well, to ensure you can better focus on the target. If you and France move efficiently, and Italy doesn't make an unwise, early, unsupported charge against France, England should lose this fight reasonably quickly. As with fighting France, deception can be helpful here for getting England to waste a move or two early on, thinking that she's allied with one of you, but the value of deception against England is a little more limited. The English player will be able to see you coming, because your fleets will need to move toward North Sea and the Channel before they can be sure of taking North Sea or the Channel. I will finish up by suggesting what you can do if England and France join forces against you. Unfortunately, this segment of my advice will be very brief because there's not much. You need to break them up. Remind France of how dangerous England will be once you're gone, sitting in the corner waiting to stab him. Remind England that if she joins you and turns on France, you'll make all her dreams come true. I'm sort of joking, but sort of not, because your situation is getting desperate at this point. You need to charm or bribe one of them somehow. Try to get Russia and/or Italy and/or Austria to help you because they have no particular interest in seeing the West quickly settle under Anglo-French rule. But unless you can get England and France to change their outlook, you will be out quickly if they ally against you. You may even want to express that you're amenable to a Western triple, even though that's really just putting off your demise for a couple of years. That's how desperate this situation is. And now you've got my complete tips on what to do in 1902 as Germany. I hope you liked this video and found it helpful, and if so, I hope you'll like and subscribe, comment with your video suggestions, check out my other videos, and all that good stuff. Until next time, Florida Man, out.